Go ahead and think in your head for a moment. What is trauma? What does trauma mean to you? My name is Sierra Lusby, and I am a therapist, and I've helped tons of people heal from years of trauma wounds. And I want to talk to you today about my favorite definition of trauma. Personally, I prefer the definition that trauma is when you are stuck, whether you are physically stuck or if you feel or perceive that you're stuck in an uncomfortable situation. Why I love this definition is that it broadens the scope of what we give permission to be trauma. So, using this definition, being stuck or perceiving that you are stuck in an uncomfortable situation, let's think about that. What fits in trauma all of a sudden? Well, if you were born into a marginalized population, trauma. If you were born into or coerced into an extreme religious or cult like group, trauma. If you were born into a family where the nurturers were not nurturing or protective in any way, complex trauma. If you are in a relationship that's not working, that's not comfortable, but maybe you're stuck because of the situation, trauma. If you have been restrained or sedated or harmed in a medical procedure, you guessed it, trauma. If you have a chronic illness, trauma. Okay. So a lot of my clients, when they first come into treatment, have a really hard time with the term trauma survivor. I think this is because I hear a lot, Sierra, but I wasn't hit. No one hit me. Or, Sierra, I wasn't in a war torn country or anything like that. And by doing that, we subconsciously, not on purpose, but we subconsciously invalidate whatever experience we've had. By being able to understand that what we went through was traumatic and what that did to our brain and what that carries with us in our bodies and how we relate to the world. Once you can identify yourself as a trauma survivor, all of a sudden you're opening yourself up to what you need to heal. What you need becomes a lot more clear for what you need to heal. And you're no longer invalidating the experience that you had. So it's a much more compassionate way of treating yourself. And think about it, treating other people in your life who maybe have been through similar difficulties or maybe experienced those difficulties alongside you. What I love about working with trauma survivors is that they're more sensitive. They tend to be. They can be. They can be more sensitive. And what I mean by sensitive is that they can kind of pick up on changes quickly, more quickly than their counterparts, right? So that's what sensitivity means. And that in itself is pretty cool, right? That's a superpower. That's helpful. If you think biologically and evolutionarily, that is a pretty helpful skill to pick up on subtle changes in your environment quickly. Another thing about trauma survivors is that they tend to be more resilient, right? So they have a higher threshold of what they can handle, of what's thrown at them, challenges that come to them in their life. And so sometimes a trauma survivor is presenting as like a very high achieving person. There could be a very high achieving person in your life or at work who has been through a lot more than what they necessarily share with you. Trauma survivors can be a lot more empathetic because they've been through it. They get it. They understand what it's like to be scared, what it's like to feel stuck, right? So they can have more emotional IQ, emotional empathy, and connection with others. So I'm hoping that listening to this today broadens your idea of what trauma is. It's not a bad word. It is it's important information that we can use in treating ourselves, in talking to our therapist, and empowering ourselves to get what we need to heal. Thank you for listening today. And if you have a definition of trauma that you like or that a therapist has shared with you, please share it with me. I love to broaden my vocabulary and my list of trauma definitions. It's great to be able to help people understand what it is. I hope this helps. Bye.